For this video, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on animating gunshots and blaster shots in stop-motion videos. I know this isn't the type of video that I normally post, but I'm making an effort to grow my channel, and that includes making more frequent uploads. I still want to keep this channel focused on stop-motion LEGO videos, so as part of this new effort, I want to try making a series of tutorials that I can upload either monthly or bi-weekly, depending on how intensive each tutorial is. The tutorials can cover any part of the video production process, from filming techniques, to editing, to sound design and voice acting, even script writing if it's something that people are interested in seeing. Since I operate on practically a non-existent budget, I also want them to be geared toward people who are also trying to make videos on small budgets. I know many of my viewers also make their own stop-motion videos, so I think these could be a valuable addition to my channel. It shouldn't really hinder work on my main projects either, as I don't expect each tutorial to be too difficult to make. I've chosen to make this tutorial about gunshots, but I'm hoping that future tutorials can be based off of suggestions and comments from my viewers about things that they would like to see. With that lengthy introduction out of the way, let me begin. The first step in animating gunshots is to simulate recoil during the filming process. Have your character's gun jump up for a frame or two, and then take another frame or two to return to level. This is important because it looks like your character is actually reacting to a shot they just fired. A perfectly still weapon wouldn't look quite right by comparison. Once you have the footage you want to use, you can move on to the computer editing part of the process. The next step is to obtain a muzzle flash and the projectile that you'll be using. I simply draw mine in a program like Microsoft Paint or GIMP, which is a free picture editing program. It seems like a low-tech solution, I'm sure, but it does the trick for me. My muzzle flash is generally this three-pronged shape, with the middle point being the largest. It's supposed to look like a flash of energy exiting the barrel of a gun. If I'm drawing a laser, I will simply make a horizontal line in whatever color I want the laser to be. While one strategy might be to draw this directly into the frame, I would advise against this. I say put your shot in front of a green or blue background, something that can be keyed out later, because it will give you more freedom later on in the editing process to add effects to these drawings. Now it's time to add these drawings to our original footage. I'll try to keep the effects I use as generic as possible. I don't necessarily want this to be a tutorial for Pinnacle Studio 18, although it's something I could definitely do later on. Anyways, what I'm about to do is make use of keyframe. If you use a program that doesn't have keyframing, or a pan and zoom effect, you may have trouble recreating these effects. First we want to add our muzzle flash where it should be in the frame. This effect should only last for about 3 or 4 frames, and you can use a fade out effect on the tail end of the clip to give the impression of the energy dissipating in the air. Next, I blur the flash. Not too much, but we don't want it looking too sharp either. A muzzle flash isn't something that's supposed to be too defined when seen in broad daylight. Now we want to add in our laser. We want to layer it under our muzzle flash in this case. Here's where the keyframing I mentioned earlier comes in. On the first frame of the effect, we want the shot to be positioned as if it's coming out of the muzzle. We'll make that our first keyframe. Then we will add just one more keyframe at the very end of the clip. This keyframe takes place after our shot has flown off the vicinity of the screen. So we want to position our shot far enough to the left that it is no longer on the screen for this keyframe. Now you'll want to adjust the length of this effect for how long you want your laser to be on screen. Shots that are zoomed out may have the laser on screen for a lot longer than a close-in shot like this. Here we decide on a duration of 7 frames. Lastly, we blur our laser to give a sense of motion. Now we can go back and watch the final product. This tutorial is pretty basic, and there are a lot of more advanced methods, but this should offer a good starting point for anyone who's trying to make their own effects but isn't quite sure how to go about doing it. Let me know what you think. This is my very first attempt at something like this, so I'm sure they'll get better as time goes on. And make sure you leave in the comments any topics for tutorials that you would like to see me make in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing the feedback I'll get.